Each week on Culinary Confidential, Christina Cates, a seasoned foodie who has worked at some of New York City's top restaurants, will share her passion for the culinary world. Whether you're a professional chef, a restaurant enthusiast, or a lover of good food, Christina dives into the heart of hospitality, exploring the trends, triumphs, and challenges facing the food service profession. And you won't want to miss her chats with some of the most interesting and influential industry voices. And now, please take your seat at the table as Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates starts now, exclusively on AM 970. The Answer.
Welcome to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates. This show is produced in association with my dear friend, Lucas A. Ferrara. Now, before we get into the show tonight, I want to give a special shout out to the team at Daniel Boulud's new steakhouse, La Tête d'Or, which is located on Park Ave in the Flatiron neighborhood in New York. I had dinner there recently with some friends, and while I was sitting at my table, a buster named Mazarahul walked by the table that I used to work with at the Palm in Tribeca. Now, this happens to me from time to time because I've literally worked with thousands of people in the industry, so I'll see a familiar face once in a while when I'm out. But it's been roughly 10 years since I saw him, so we caught up for a while and talked about his new position working for Daniel Boulud, which, by the way, made me so proud of him that he was working for such an accomplished chef now. But afterwards, our server then came back over to the table and said he had heard that I worked in the industry and he wanted to acknowledge that and really give our table special attention because it's important to take care of our people. And that was really touching. The restaurant industry is a tight-knit community, but it's really tough and can be a transient job for some people. You know, just like helping to pay the bills until they land a job, doing what they really want to do. And the career server is a dying breed because the industry is not for the faint of heart. It's evolved so much over the last few decades, and it entails more than just writing down an order in the front of the house or cooking some food in the back of the house. If you're personally having a bad day, you still have to be able to slap on a smile and deliver an extraordinary experience. And that can be hard when you have to deal with sometimes difficult guests. It becomes a grind, day in and day out, year after year. So I encourage every single person listening to work in food service at least once in your life, and I promise you will have a new appreciation for the people that work in the industry and that make your experiences memorable. Working in hospitality and food service is a humbling experience, and it involves a dedicated community of people. My guests and I had a really special night at La Tête d'Or. The service was fantastic, the food was incredible, and I just want to thank the whole team once again because I can't wait to go back. Now back to the show. On tonight's episode, I have an amazing cookbook author and food blogger on the show by the name of Jorj Morgan. Jorj specializes in Southern cooking and has written 12 cookbooks and counting. Jorj is out with a new series of interactive cookbooks right now called You Can Cook Anything, which are designed to offer novice chefs a fun, approachable way to learn cooking basics. Jorj sent me copies of these recently, volumes 1 through 5, which I now keep handy in my kitchen and have fun with my kids, letting them flip through the books and pick out recipes. Jorj, welcome to Culinary Confidential.
Thank you so much for having me, Christina.
Oh, my pleasure. I want to know all about Jorj because you and I have never met before. This is the first time we're speaking. All I know about you is through the cookbooks that you've sent me. So tell me, how did you get into the cooking space?
Oh, long story.
I'll
make it short for your listeners. I learned to cook from my grandmothers. My mother was not one that loved being in the kitchen. So I had an Irish grandmother on one end of the street and a Polish grandmother on the other end. One fed a crowd, one made everything perfect. And somehow, in between all that, I grew up learning to cook and enjoy making things look pretty.
I love it.
And I did that through the entire time I was raising children, and even had a catering company in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for some period of time, and did a lot of party planning and events for different groups and charities. And then my oldest son decided to go to college, which was wonderful. And when he left, he said, "Oh my gosh, Mom, what will you do with yourself? I'm leaving." there's nothing left for you to do. And I did mention to him he had 2 younger siblings, and maybe they would have some needs, but it was really all about him. And as he entered college and all of his buddies developed the freshman 15, he came home to say, Mom, nobody knows how to cook.
Wow.
We have apartments. There are ovens. We don't know what to do with them. And so I started a website back in the day when Al Gore discovered the internet and put up in recipes on Friday afternoons with shopping lists. And the kids could then shop for the week, make simple recipes, and then share them with all their friends. And before you know it, I had a whole bunch of well-tested recipes. I mean, the questions were so obviously smart that it was something like, I would write, add 2 tablespoons mustard. And they'd write back to me, well, what do you mean mustard? The dry mustard in the jar, French's mustard, brown mustard. So you learn to be pretty specific. Anyway, by the time I compiled all these recipes, I was able to publish my first book. And so I did, and here we find ourselves many, many years later. And I've done this new series that's called You Can Cook Anything, basically for the same audience that my son was all those many, many years ago, but just filled with all kinds of new technology.
You know what? I think that's actually genius, Jorj. And now that I'm thinking, because I do have the books you sent me, I think when I have people in my life that go away to college, I'm going to send them these books. Sometimes you send care packages to college kids that have whatever, like sometimes it's like candy bars or cookies or whatever. I think it would be more productive if I sent them this line of cookbooks, because it really does kind of dumb down how to cook when you don't know how to cook.
It really does. It really just explains the thing. I mean, you watch the cooking shows and people will tell you to dice or you Google, when you Google a recipe for meatloaf, it'll say like fold in the cheese. That's so famously on that show, the Schitt's Creek. Fold in the cheese. What does folding in the cheese mean?
Yeah, so, I love that one. Yeah.
I love that. So interspersed in all the pages over the 5 different books are over 130 QR codes that if you click on your phone will lead you to instructional videos. It'll teach you the basics of cooking, how to cut across the grain on a flank steak so that when you invest all that money in that flank steak and grill it to perfection, you get to enjoy a tender bite by cutting it properly, or how to carve a chicken or fold in whipped cream. I mean, really the basic things that you need to know to make your recipe successful.
Good stuff, Jorj. Okay, now you specialize in Southern cooking. Now I'm a Northerner. I grew up in the Northeast, New Jersey, New York. Like, this is where I live. What exactly is Southern cooking?
Well, it's just a lot of feel good in your mouth.
Ooh, I like it.
A lot of that. Southern cooking is, I think the term Southern cooking really can relate to everywhere. It's more of a seasonal cooking and taking advantage of the fresh produce in the market, of the fresh fish in the sea. I know I have friends from New Jersey, and they cherish their Jersey tomatoes in season.
Yes.
That's really what we're doing within these books. We're telling you to shop for the best ingredients that you can find seasonally and then use them. And if you're not able to find those ingredients, let's substitute with something that you can find easily in the store. So Southern cooking is, I think, universal to the country in that it's just getting the opportunity of the seasonal ingredients and then being able to get close to the providers of those ingredients, whether they be farmers or butchers or fishmongers, just getting in touch with where your food comes from.
Where in the South are you?
I'm in the mountains of North Carolina.
Wow.
Yes, but I'm also in South Florida.
Okay.
So I get a lot of wonderful, which is where I raise my children, my family. And so we get a lot of beautiful food from the sea.
Yeah.
And our growing seasons are quite different than what it would be in North Carolina or New Jersey. I mean, we are right now would be a prime growing season because it's just not as hot down in South Florida. Whereas the same tomato I get that is perfect here right now won't be that perfect until July in North Carolina. So it's really all about looking at what's available to you at the time and then really being able to use it, which again is getting back to why we call it, you can cook anything. The thing is what you find in the store, what you find in the back of your refrigerator. The thing is what I have right now and what can I do with it.
Tell me about your family dynamic that you were just starting to mention. You have kids, you have grandkids. Do you involve your grandkids in the cooking in your kitchen?
Oh, my goodness, yes. Oh, my goodness, yes. As soon as they can get on the stool and grab a spoon, they're stirring with me in the kitchen. Yeah, my little ones have we've been baking bread. I don't think there's a holiday that comes around that we're not making the cake together, all of us, for whoever's birthday it is. I mean, it's just, and I'm really, when I'm around them, I love to do Sunday dinners. And if I'm not, I'm so excited that my daughter-in-laws carry on the traditions of Sunday dinners. So it's just, and Lord, don't get me starting on game days. I mean, we cook us up some wings.
Oh, like Super Bowl and stuff like that?
Oh, well, it can be a preseason game. We'll just, any excuse to have the wings, I think, is really what happens.
Do you have a good recipe for the wings in one of your books?
In volume 4,
I love it.
It's things with wings and fishy things.
Perfect. What do you think are some key ingredients or techniques even that define your recipes?
I think the secret to what I do and what I'm trying to help everybody expand upon is substitutions. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people that are wanting to cook and will look at a recipe and it'll call for something and they're saying, oh, I don't have it, I can't make it. I think a lot of what we do in these pages and what I do on my website is to give you permission to try something else. If you don't have, going back to a fresh tomato, let's work with a canned tomato. Let's use a cherry tomato. Let's use a sun-dried tomato. I mean, we can use those ingredients and give the recipe a different little switch, and you might find something that you like even better than what you thought you were going to start with. So I think that's one of the things I really want to get people able to do. And to help do that, there is an app that goes along with this series of books that allows you to join a community of people that'll say, hey, I made this recipe, but I didn't have this, and I used this, and it turned out pretty good. What do you think? To allow people to even expand on what they have even further.
Do you know what frustrates me the most when you buy some of these other cookbooks with these recipes in them? There's a lot of wasted product, right? It'll be like, you need thyme or whatever, you need a sprig. So then you have this whole bunch of thyme that you're left over with. So what I loved about your books was they're just very user-friendly, and a lot of the recipes are simple that are everyday ingredients that you don't have to buy specific for this one meal.
It's true. And absolutely, and there are substitution ideas and leftover ideas all the way through the book. I mean, if you want a meatloaf and you're cooking for 2 people, that's a lot of meatloaf.
That's a lot of meatloaf.
That's a lot of meatloaf. But make the meatloaf, and then let's reuse what you have left over in different things. I mean, you can make a meatloaf panini. You can make a meatloaf strudel. There's all kinds of things you can do with leftover meatloaf. Leftover chicken, oh my gosh, I could go on. If everybody doesn't cook a chicken a week and use the leftovers for 3 more meals, you're wasting your time.
I do that often. I'll make a chicken or even a turkey like on a Sunday, and then I'll use the meat. I'll make a chicken salad. I could do a chicken stir fry, or I'll take those bones and save it and make a bone broth or a soup with it later on in the week. So I think utilizing the whole ingredient is super important. And I have 2 small children. They sometimes will wake up and decide they don't like something one day when they ate it the day before. So repurposing some of those recipes like the meatloaf into different things, I think is genius. And I think more people should be doing that rather than just throwing the leftovers away and wasting the food.
Exactly, and we do a lot of that. There's lots and lots of leftover repurposing ideas within the pages of the book. Lots of it.
Now, how has your cooking philosophy changed, if at all, from when you were a mother cooking for kids to a grandmother cooking for grandkids?
Well, I have more time.
Yeah.
Because I'm only cooking for those grandkids when they want to eat, which is more frequently as they get to be teenagers, just saying. But as a mom with, I'm sure you know this, with 2 small kids, you're all about nutritional value. You know, you got to make sure that they have the 3 squares, they get in their vitamins through their food, all the other things that you're worried about them eating. And so you might be hiding some broccoli in their mac and cheese, you know, just trying them to get it down. As a grandma with teenagers, it's, what do you want to eat? I'll make it for you.
Yeah.
So it's whatever they want, I will be delighted to make, because I don't have to worry that they're not having their vitamins or that I'm giving them too many carbs or too much sugar. I love giving them sugar. Yeah. It makes me happy.
You know, it's so funny. When I was younger, you know, my mom, she cooked. Like she always cooked us dinner, or any meal rather. But it was like, you just got what you got. There was no opinions. I want this. I don't want this. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. Now with the grandkids, it's like, do you want that sandwich cut in stars and hearts? Do you want the crust cut off? And I'm like, who is this woman?
Exactly. There's a lot of latitude being a grandmother.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite personal story behind one of the recipes in one of your cookbooks?
Okay, I would say that I do have a fun personal story. There was a movie that we all watched back in the day, and it was called, it's an old movie. It was Goldie Hawn was in it. Chevy Chase was in it when they were young actors and actresses. It was called Seems Like Old Times, and it was a Neil Simon play that was remade into this movie. And there was a scene in it where Goldie Hawn has got to cook for a person coming in, it was a governor, and so she has to cook this extraordinary meal. And just her cook leaves, and now she's stuck trying to make this meal, and she spends the day making it, and her husband's demanding that she makes it for the governor. And she's like, "Well, can I make something simple like that? If I can make a steak, you got to make this meal." And it was called chicken pepperoni. And she agonizes over the sauce. Anyway, it was the most hysterical scene in the movie. She's trying to feed her dogs a taste of this sauce, and they're all dying. So we all watch it. We all giggle. We knew every line in the book, in the movie. All my husband, myself, the 3 boys on movie night. So I made chicken pepperoni. And created a dish that I call chicken pepperoni. It's in the book. And what it is a breaded chicken cutlet with marinara sauce, pieces of slices of pepperoni, and mozzarella cheese on top.
Delicious.
And then you just bake it. It's delicious. And you serve it with spaghetti or fettuccine and, whatever. And I bet I made that every 2 weeks for 15 years.
Wow.
I mean, it was just something that everybody loved.
Yeah.
Can we have chicken pepperoni? Kind of like a pizza, but with chicken.
I'm going to make that for my older son because he loves pepperoni and he loves a chicken cutlet. So that's right up his alley.
And you will. It's so easy, and you'll love it.
All right, Jorj, don't go anywhere. We're going to go to commercial break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
I love bringing you products that improve your life. Well, this product can save a life. Hey, it's Joe Piscopo. You know, there are approximately 5,000 choking deaths in the U.S. each year. One child dies every 5 days from choking. The solution is called LifeVac. My dear friend Arthur Lee is the founder, CEO, and inventor of LifeVac. It's a simple rescue device that can change your child's life in a choking emergency. It's non-invasive and easy to use. If you have a young child in your family, I strongly recommend you visit the LifeVac website at lifevac.net. That's LIFEVAC.net. View the videos demonstrating its ease of use. LifeVac works in 3 simple steps: place, push, and pull. The LifeVac device dislodges the obstruction and suctions out the food or object. It's that simple. Lifevac.net, made in the USA and FDA registered.
Keep your body moving with powerful nutrients to support your joints and overall mobility. This is Dr. Amanda Williams here to tell you about Invite Health's best-selling Cartilage HX. Your cartilage helps protect your bones and joints by preventing friction, but your body's natural stores of cartilage can deplete with age or overuse. Cartilage HX helps to maintain the health of your cartilage and promotes flexibility and mobility. This powerful formulation includes a patented form of type 2 collagen called UC2 that has been shown in clinical studies to promote joint comfort and strong, healthy bones. Save on Cartilage HX when you order today. Call 800-673-2345 now to buy 1 bottle of Cartilage HX and get a second bottle free plus receive free shipping. Again, that's 800-673-2345. Stay active with the help of Invite Health's Cartilage HX. Buy 1 bottle and get the second bottle free plus receive free shipping. Call now to place your order at 800-673-2345.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for and there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff. Like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970. The Answer.
Okay, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, I'm joined by Jorj Morgan, food blogger and author of 12 cookbooks and counting. Jorj, welcome back to the show. I want to talk about some party planning and overall practical advice in the kitchen, because I know you've planned a party or two in your day.
1 or 2, yeah.
1 or 2. I actually really enjoyed the story that was up on your blog about how you got into basically cooking and party planning, that party for your mom. Do you want to tell that story?
Oh, mine. Yes. Back in the day, I decided to do a surprise party for my mom's birthday, and I invited all of her friends and her business associates, which was really kind of crazy. And then I decided, it was like 40 people, and I invited them to my small one-bedroom apartment, and I decided to cook her special dish, her most favorite dish, and it was lobster Newburg. Now, I had never cooked lobster Newburg. I had seen it. I had seen her order it. I'd seen her eat it. But it was my mom. I wanted to do something special. So I get these lobsters. I go to the store. I buy frozen lobsters because what do I know? And the funny part about it was that I tried to deshell, take the lobster meat out of the lobster tails while they were frozen. It never even occurred to me to cook them first and then take the meat out. I mean, you learn, overall.
Right.
But anyway, I served this vat of lobster Newburg, which is absolutely delicious. It was delicious. I don't think I've ever tried it since. To 40 people, and I mean, I just did it. There was a table for 4, and that was it. So people ate lobster Newburg on their laps, on the stairs in the hallway, out in the parking lot.
Oh my goodness!
But it was one of those days. It was pretty. She came. She was surprised. The people were happy, and the food was good. And that's it was kind of like, well, if you can do this, you can probably do anything, kind of thing.
What do you think makes a good host?
I think a good host is one that is super organized, and those words might scare some people, but I think that planning is the secret to you as a host enjoying the party as much as your guests. And if you're having a good time, your guests are going to have a good time. I usually do like a timeline. So for Thanksgiving, which is the worst holiday ever to host in the world.
Thanksgiving?
Because it's such an intensive dinner, and everything has to be made at the last minute, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get the potatoes hot, and the gravy hot, and the turkey carved, and stuffing out of the cavity. And I mean, so I usually do a 2-week timeline for that meal. Wow. So that I don't have everything to do the night before. And this especially works if you're working or your days are filled. And you can do some of these things on weekends and some of these things in the evenings and have everything ready so that by the time your guests walk in the door for whatever time that may be on Thanksgiving Day, everything's done and you're ready. Yeah. And you have a glass of wine in your hand, and you can hug the people coming in without an apron on.
So much of it is about balance of managing the event and being able to spend time with the people that you've invited over. And that's really hard to do when you're the host. Now, I have a new appreciation, actually, for my mother, who's cooked every single holiday meal for our family my whole life. Like, she would host Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I mean, she'd live in the kitchen the whole day. She would be cooking for so long that by the time we sat down for the meal, she's like, I'm not even hungry. I just want to eat a turkey sandwich later tonight when everyone goes to bed. Like, she'd just sit there. And as an adult now, I'm like, oh my, it's so labor intensive. And anyone who hosts a holiday, I appreciate you. Now let's talk about tablescapes, because they're really all the rage right now, especially with visual platforms like Pinterest and Instagram, even like all those social media things. What do you think makes a great tablescape?
I think what makes a great tablescape is your personality within that planning. I like a casually fussy approach.
Fussy? Is that what you said?
Casual fussy.
Okay.
I like my guests to come casually, feel casual, and I like to fuss up the table just a tad. And by doing that, I like to incorporate different place settings. Not everybody, I like to invite a crowd, so not everybody has place settings for 12 or 8 or 10, but you might have for 4, and you might have a different set of china for 4 more. I like to mix it up, and I like to mix up linen napkins with paper placemats. I love fresh flowers, and I like candles, but I like them in little vases, and I like to mix up other things in the middle of the table. For example, for Valentine's Day, I had some crystal vases, with some china vases, with like some jeweled hearts that I kind of interspersed on the middle of the table. My placemats were alternate. Some were a turquoise, which kind of went with the room, and some were a pink that went with the holiday. And I mixed those two together with different colored china. And I think all of that can work.
Yeah, the attention to detail.
Exactly. And in your planning for these parties, these events, I think you can set your tables, several days in advance.
Yeah, that's an easy tip for party planning for sure.
An easy thing to get out of the way. And then you know what you need. Oh my gosh, I have 7 glasses that match instead of 8, so I better use 4 of these and 4 of those.
And even if you're doing like a multi-course dinner, then you can think, okay, I need small forks for maybe some like chilled seafood. I need the salad fork, the entree fork. We're doing soup. We need to put spoons out, just so you're not rushing at the last minute to kind of gather these items.
Well, let's say you're having a big party and it's a casual party, and you're having your friends come casually, but yet you're setting multiple tables with different place settings and putting, the flowers, or I like little objects, I have these little Yadro pieces, and some of them are boys doing, different sports, like baseball and soccer, and I like to put those on a table setting when I'm hosting a game day. Using all those, and just setting people up at different, or not even telling them where to sit, but setting tablescapes at different tables or on benches or wherever you want your people to go, and then serving a buffet dinner. Mm-hmm. And having everybody just grab a plate and sit wherever they want. But all of the tablescapes can be different as long as you're giving them a little bit of fussiness.
Now, Jorj, clearly everyone's coming to your house, right? You're the hostess with the mostest. What are good recipes for a crowd, especially in a time when there's just so many dietary restrictions that people have right now? Like who's gluten-free, who's allergic to nuts and soy? Like, what are just some easy recipes that you have in your arsenal that are go-to crowd pleasers for the majority of the crowd?
I have to admit, I do not really ask people what they're allergic to. I figure if somebody's allergic to something,
they'll know.
They'll know, and they'll say to me, I can't eat that.
Right.
What I do is try to do 2 entrees so that people have a choice. So I might, nice. In terms of surf and turf.
Yeah.
Okay, you're always thinking there's maybe a seafood and a beef. Well, you can do that with chicken and salmon. You can do that with, a pasta and a seafood. I rarely do just a seafood by itself because that is where more allergies were going to come in. I would usually do I have a beautiful salmon recipe that is perfect for a buffet, and then maybe a beef course. My favorite, of course, is chicken. I just had a Valentine's Day dinner party, and I made what is like a chicken Kiev. You take a chicken breast, and I think you can make chicken 6,000 million different ways and enjoy every bite of it. But I took a chicken breast, flattened it, pounded it, then dipped it in some butter and parm, dipped it in some breadcrumbs, and then wrapped it around. I grated some fontina cheese and had a bit of ham. And just wrapped that up and baked it, and cut it in slices, and it was beautiful.
That sounds
beautiful
amazing,
dinner.
George. I'm coming over.
It was so good, and it's so easy and affordable.
Now, when you're cooking for big groups or like hosting dinner parties or even larger events, how do you figure out the ratio of how much to prepare per guest?
Well, this harkens back to my Irish grandmother. I cook a bunch. I have a bunch of food, and I always put it out because I am that person that will repurpose the leftovers. I'd rather have too much, and I like to send people home with leftovers. So I'd rather cook too much than not have enough. But generally, you know that people are not going to eat more than probably 4 ounces of meat, maybe 6 ounces of chicken, and you can do that math if you don't want to cook for leftovers. But it's always a big part of what I do.
Do you have any go-to kitchen tools or gadgets that you just can't live without?
Yep.
Tell me.
A food processor. I know. Yeah, I have to have it. An electric mixer. Absolutely, you have to have it. Let me see. A blender. Although you could do it without the blender if you have the food processor, it's just messier. Sharp knives.
Yeah, that's
you have to have sharp knives. Yes, and watch your fingers, because if they're sharp enough to do the trick, you're probably gonna get a cut. And good pans. I think a cast iron skillet, maybe that's my southernness coming out, but a cast iron skillet probably is good for everything you're ever going to cook.
It's so funny you mentioned the knives. I call my parents' house the house of dull knives, because they have the butcher's block with knives in it, and when I'll go over there to cook something, I'm like, I can't cut anything with these knives. They haven't been sharpened in forever, and it makes cooking so much harder. And it's actually more dangerous when you're trying to cook something or cut something.
Oh my heavens! That's so true. That is so true. And you almost have to find a craftsman to sharpen the knives now.
Yeah.
But you can. Look at some mom and pop like hardware stores, and even in your neighborhood, like at art festivals, believe it or not, or food festivals, you'll find craftsmen that will sharpen knives.
Or, you can also buy, if you're like an avid cooker, you can buy some of those knife sharpening kits where it's like the block that you can kind of do it at home. But there is a technique to sharpening. Like I remember when I was working in restaurants, the first thing that the chefs would do every morning, they'd be in there on the line sharpening their knives for the day.
Absolutely. I mean, it does make a lot of difference.
All right, Jorj, we have to go to our last commercial break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970 The Answer.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. That's their loss and your gain. For the first time, you'll get a standard classic MyPillow for wholesale prices, only $14.88. Even better, for a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Queen size MyPillows for just $18.88. Upgrade to king size for only $1 more. Body pillows for $29.88. And multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. Go to MyPillow.com, use the promo code Joe P, or call 800-651-0798. Take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive free shipping on orders over $75. There are limited quantities at this price, so the limit is going to be 10, and once they're gone, they are gone. Go to MyPillow.com or call 800-651-0798. Use the promo code Joe P to get the standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to NewmanFerrara.com. That's NewmanFerrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see safe for my students.
We see safe for each other.
I see safe because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting. A why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
Get on board. The water is open. It's time to go boating and fishing and leave stress in our wake. Feel the wind as we ride and a fish on the line. Reel in our first catch and feel the sun at our backs. It's get out on the water season. It's time to get on board. Find out where to get on board near you. Visit Take Me Fishing and Discover Boating to learn more. And please recreate responsibly.
Get on board. Get on board.
President Trump is moving at lightning speed.
And after that, all hell is going to break out.
Executive orders, new policies, promises kept. It's hard to keep up until now. Subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week.
I will put America first.
It'll help you follow President Trump at the speed of Trump.
Subscribe to the Trump Report. Go to am970theanswer.com/Trump.
Welcome back to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates on AM 970. The Answer.
Okay, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, I'm joined by Southern cook Jorj Morgan. She's a food blogger, and she has a ton of cookbooks out. Most recently, her 5-part series called You Can Cook Anything, which she so graciously has sent me copies of, and I can't stop cooking recipes out of them. Jorj, welcome back to the show.
That makes me so happy. I'm glad you're enjoying them.
Oh, I love them. I mean, I really do. I keep them on my counter next to all the other cookbooks I have. And I said earlier in the intro, my kids like to pick out the recipes. And, you know, I'm their monkey. Just make them. I cook for all of them. They're like, cook me this, cook me that. Okay, so your first published cookbook was At Home in the Kitchen, The Art of Preparing the Foods You Love to Eat. What made you say, like, that's it, I'm writing a cookbook?
You know, it was just something I've always wanted to do, and I was able, because of cooking and having all those recipes on the website and being able to test the recipes through all the people that were just newly to my website and blog, which we didn't even it wasn't even called a blog back then. You just put a new piece up on your website once a week. I had very well-tested recipes, and I thought, well, I didn't know any better. Why couldn't I just publish a cookbook? I'll just follow how to publish a cookbook, which was a process and a difficult one. It took me a couple years. But then I met this wonderful publisher out of Nashville, and I just literally knocked on his door and walked in, and I said, you know, I sent you a copy of my manuscript, and he looked at me, and he was, like, covered in manuscripts, like, on every surface of his desk, on his counter, everywhere, and he said, lady, really? And I said, well, here's another one. And we got to talking, and I think he just really loved the idea that there was a website component to the book.
Yeah. And I'm sure your Southern charm helped a little bit, too.
Well, there was a little bit of blinking of the eyelashes. I mean, when in doubt, you know. But anyway, it turned out to be a great partner, and we published 4 books together.
Wow. Do you still keep in touch to this day? Are they still publishing your books?
No, that he retired and that company went away. So we went to a different situation. But he was a wonderful man.
Nice. All right, so let's talk about the food photography and design, because food photography is very difficult to get pictures of food to look how they're supposed to look in a cookbook. Can we talk about what that kind of photo shoot process looks like when you're drumming up these recipes?
Well, this is going to surprise you, but there are no photographs of my food in these books. Now, you're saying to yourself, Christina, what?
I've seen photos in them.
But what you've seen are graphic illustrations of the food. One of the things I really wanted to do within these pages was give the reader an inspiration of the dish as opposed to what the dish should look like. So I got together with a very artistic graphic designer, and I said, what can we do that will give us images of the food and yet not be a photo? And he modified a program, and we worked with artificial intelligence so that what happened was we actually fed the ingredients of the recipe into the program, and the program would spit out the images that you see in this book.
That's very interesting.
So what ended up happening is that the artificial intelligence program worked as a recipe tester. In other words, if I fed in the ingredients of pimento cheese sandwich with bologna, and out came an illustration of something that was not a sandwich, I realized I wrote the recipe wrong. I went back to the drawing board, rewrote it until the computer would understand what I wanted to do, and therefore the image would be an image. So the reason I did this, why in the world would a person do this? I think there's a lot of times that a novice cook, or even a good, somebody that really wants to look at a new recipe, goes to Google and says, puts in a great meatloaf recipe. What pops up? Oh, these beautiful pictures of a meatloaf.
Right.
It's the meatloaf is shining in the sunshine. It's a barnyard. The gravy is drizzled on top. The mashed potatoes have butter melting down, right? And so you make that recipe, and your meatloaf comes out looking like meatloaf.
Yeah.
And to yourself, you're disappointed.
Yep.
You're like, it doesn't look right. It can't taste good. And so you don't do it anymore. It's just, instead of an inspiration, it kind of works as a hindrance to you trying to do something different. So I wanted and make it very clear that these are not pictures of actual food. These are ideas of what it can look like. And yours can look like whatever you want it to look like. It's your thing.
You're a pioneer, Jorj Morgan.
I hope so.
Which cookbook was your favorite? And don't say you love them all. Everyone has a favorite.
Okay, I will tell you, I love Volume 3.
Volume 3?
And
what was the title of that
burgers, dogs, sides, and many, many things. I love burgers. I think a good cheeseburger is the highlight of one's week. I have one every Saturday afternoon after I play golf in the morning with my girlfriends, and there are a lot of going along at that table. It's great, a great cheeseburger. So this book is really based on cheeseburgers. There's all kinds of different burgers. I love a great hot dog. I like a brat. I like couch potato food. So this book is fun. We have a patty melt in here. We have a smash burger. But then I'm going to get you into the meat, and I'm a meat and potatoes kind of girl. I think that's
Irish.
The Irish grandma there, too. Yeah.
I'm Irish also. So we normally have 3 sides of potatoes on any given table.
Yes, there's recipes in this volume, even though it's all about the burger. You got to have a fry. So there's all kinds of fry recipes in here. I mean, it really is a fun book. Now, that said, I think a very popular book is the veggie book. I think people like new ways to cook vegetables. And Volume 2 is all about, how you can make a salad out of more than just a lettuce leaf, and how you can take an artichoke and learn to make it at home. And those kind of things, I think, are very popular, and people want to do it. The book number 5, everybody's baking bread today.
Yes.
I mean, let's bake us some bread. But let's also do a flatbread, make your own pizza dough. I mean, there's nothing better than using your oven to create a pizza on a Friday night with the kids. I mean, it just is, it's fun. Pizza night is fun night, and you can do that without having to order and without having to make buy a pre-made crust.
What about sourdough? Sourdough's all the rage right now.
Sourdough is all the rage, and there is a recipe in here for that, and you can do your sourdough starter, but I am a big proponent of, and there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, a lot of people believe the nutritional value of sourdough is more important than anything else in the world, and I agree that there is value there, but I'm a good old yeast girl. Just show me a packet of yeast, and I can give you a loaf of bread, you know, and I just find it easy to do. So there's tons of bread recipes in here. But hey, let's make a cookie. Why not make a cookie? It's 30 minutes from flour in the bowl to hot cookie coming out of the oven. Why not do that once a week, you know?
And there's nothing that makes your home smell better than freshly baked cookies.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right. And you know what? If you want a grilled cheese sandwich, Volume 1 is all about grilled cheese. From grilled pimento cheese for the perfect ultimate grilled cheese sandwich. And let's take that cheese and let's make some mac and cheese. What family doesn't live on mac and cheese? And let's really veg it up. We can do all kinds of things with it. So yes, I have a favorite. I do love them all, Christina.
I know, but your cookbooks are great, Jorj. I'm so happy that you sent them to me and that Lucas Ferrara put us in touch because you were a guest on his show previously, and he reached out to me and was like, you have to have Jorj Morgan on the show. She's a spitfire, just like you, Christina. You're going to get along famously, and I think we did, Jorj. Thank you for listening to Culinary Confidential with Christina Cates, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on AM 970, The Answer. Big thanks to Jorj Morgan, Southern Cooking Extraordinaire. Check out more about Jorj and all of her cookbooks at jorj.com. Tune in next week for a show about a functional mushroom-based cocktail called Little Saints. I've invited the founder of Little Saints, Megan Klein, on to talk about her non-alcoholic spirits line in preparation for one of the biggest drinking days of the year, St. Patrick's Day. Megan was the season 16 opener on the popular ABC show Shark Tank. I can't wait to hear about her experience. That's the show. Thanks for listening and have a great night.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.